Hi, my name is Alina Bowman, and I'm going to be talking to you guys about the Chesapeake Bay Foundation. This organization is based in the Chesapeake Bay watershed, which encompasses at least 6 states and the Washington, D.C. area. The organization was founded in 1967, and it is the largest independent conservation organization dedicated solely to saving the bay, so a lot of people. Speaking of people, there are a lot of people involved in this organization. They have about 13 executive staff members, including vice presidents for each of their focus areas, including environmental education, communications, environmental protection and restoration, and litigation. They also have executive directors for the 3 states that they're majorly focused on, so Pennsylvania, Maryland, and Virginia, and then also at the federal level. They have about 50 trustees and officers from the area, but their main base of the organization is in volunteers and advocates. They have more than 200,000 members and supporters across the country. So how many projects are in operation and who do they collaborate with? If we go into the how we save the bay heading here, you can see there's a lot of things going on. There are the local, state, and federal levels working with education, advocacy, litigation, and restoration programs. So just within those headings, there's a lot going on. They're working with schools, courtrooms, the public. We'll talk more about the Chesapeake Clean Water Blueprint in a minute. We can look at some other programs and initiatives first, though. So they're kind of broken up into states even within this section. So again, a lot going on. There's one multi-state program, the Mountains to Bay Grazing Alliance. Yep, so they have some community engagement programs, clean water captains, working with farmers through the Maryland Grazers Network and the Mountains to Bay Grazing Alliance, working with shellfish growers, and then also working with oyster restoration and advocacy, training volunteers, and then shoreline restoration projects. They also provide financial support to other environmental initiatives. They also collaborate with some corporations through corporate partnerships. Their website didn't have a lot to say about this, but they do host and collaborate with large corporations on hands-on volunteering events. So what is Chesapeake Bay Foundation interested in? Chesapeake Bay Ecosystem Restoration, which has a lot of parts to it, as you can see by just the headings from their website on the right-hand side here. That ecosystem restoration would involve bringing back native shellfish like oysters and blue crabs, and then underwater grasses. They're also focused on protection of environmental policy, focused on environmental justice, and with that, clean water and decreasing pollution through a variety of pathways. What are the CBF's goals? Their motto is Save the Bay. Simple, straight to the point. And that will be accomplished through monitoring the ecosystem and then education, litigation, and advocacy. The Chesapeake Bay is considered a national treasure, but it is currently on the EPA's Dirty Waters list, and the CBF wants to change that. Their vision is that the Chesapeake Bay and its tributary rivers, which there are a lot of throughout many states, will eventually be highly productive and in good health. Their main project that they're working on right now to reach their goals is the Chesapeake Clean Water Blueprint. It is a collaboration between the 6 Bay states and the United States government with the Environmental Protection Agency, and the goal is to have fishable, swimmable waters by 2025. So this promise was made by the Clean Water Act of 1972. The main problem is pollution, and the 3 main contributors to the poor health of the bay are nitrogen, phosphorus, and sediment. So it's mostly an agricultural program, but it's a problem, but it's also, urban runoff and deforestation, harming, stream beds, things like that. The action that this program is taking is that the states involved are committing to 2-year milestones of pollution reduction. It is a mandatory program, not a voluntary one, so there are consequences from the EPA if the states fail to meet their guidelines, and the Chesapeake Bay Foundation got the EPA to set pollution limits based on scientific modeling research, federal pollution limits. So this is not a voluntary program, and it's not just a statewide program. This is a federally influenced program. The CBF also has initiatives itself that work with farmers to improve their practices and help us reach these goals. So impact, I'm just going to talk about the impact of this one part of the foundation. So the CBF conducts a state of the blueprint analysis every 2 years with those little milestones. The success of the program is measured in pollution levels and population rebound. So at the midpoint of the program, since it started in 2010 and it goes till 2025, was in 2017. There were some goals that got hit and some were missed, and there was progress made, but they needed more. By 2019, blue crabs and underwater grasses were rebounding, so that was good, and the dead zone was getting smaller, so the area where things like fish and plants can't survive was shrinking. So some progress was made, but Pennsylvania especially was far behind, and nobody was totally on track to meet their goals. The funding for this program and for the foundation in general comes from grants, memberships, and donations for the most part. Future goals of the organization are to finish out the Chesapeake Clearwater Blueprint by 2025, get that fully implemented successfully, and then continue to restore the bay and protect the species and the ecosystem. The connections to this course are mainly related to our discussion of public engagement and education. So with Llewellyn's discussion of polar bear conservation, that conservation stopped being just the work of scientists and became the work of lawyers, lobbyists, and celebrities. So the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, you saw, did have a lot of work with the, advocating for policies and working with litigation and in the courts. So not just scientists. And then Ancrines et al. Discussed that in the past there's been a failure to consider the interest of local communities, which has resulted in the failure of conservation projects. So we also saw that the Chesapeake Bay Foundation has a lot of involvement with local communities, with local farmers and urban environments, working with those communities for this project. Additionally, the Chesapeake Bay Foundation conducted an economic analysis finding that the ecosystem services provided by the bay after the Clean Water Blueprint is fully implemented would be worth about $130 billion with a B dollars annually. So it's not just they're showing to the community that this is worth their time to conserve and protect and restore the bay. How is conservation practiced in this initiative? In a wide variety of ways, as we've seen. I could discuss them all, but it would probably be at least a half an hour long presentation, and I'd probably never even get to all of it in that amount of time. So it's mainly through education and community engagement in projects that are backed by scientific research. That's how they're getting this conservation done, this restoration of the bay. Alright, and then here are my references. I hope you guys have learned something about the Chesapeake Bay Foundation, and thanks for tuning in.